Confirmed law enforcement is releasing new images of a possible subject in Nancy's disappearance. Authorities believe the 84-year-old was taken from her home against her will more than a week ago. Savannah and her siblings have made multiple emotional appeals, even offered to pay for her safe return. A possible ransom deadline passed last night, though investigators haven't determined yet if the alleged ransom notes were real. And now these images are the first sign of a possible break in the case. Let's get to ABC's chief investigative correspondent, Aaron Katursky. Aaron, what do we know about these images so far?
They appear to come from the doorbell camera here at Nancy Guthrie's home that had been tampered with, according to the FBI. And if you look at these images that appear in black and white, Diane, you see an individual who appears to be wearing a backpack and a mask and gloves. And one of those images quite up close to the doorbell camera, the FBI says that is the individual tampering with the camera. The FBI says these images were previously inaccessible because the recording device had been taken, but working with the manufacturer, the FBI was able to recover these images. They are not characterizing the individual depicted in the image in any particular way, according to a message posted on social media by FBI Director Kash Patel. Previously, the FBI has said there are no suspects or persons of interest associated with Nancy Guthrie's disappearance. That now may be changing with the release of these images, though the FBI is not characterizing the individual depicted. You can see where the individual might be reaching close to the camera with a gloved hand to try and tamper with the camera before making entry. This was shortly before 2 a.m. at about 1:47 a.m. Mountain Time, according to a previous release timeline, Diane. And then at 2:12 a.m., a camera inside the house that was not set up to record images was able to detect an individual, an intruder, inside the house. And that's the window when police believe Nancy Guthrie was taken, Diane.
And I want to bring in retired FBI agent and ABC News contributor Brad Garrett. Brad, the FBI director is saying that these images came from back-end data. How does that process work, and how big is this finding?
Well, I think it's a huge finding. Your answer is how difficult it is. I think the short answer is it depends. But obviously, it took them several days working with, I assume, Amazon, who owns Ring, to come up with these images. But you don't have a clear of his face. There are characteristics of this picture that I think are unique.
Brad, your audio is cutting out, so I'm going to go back to Aaron on that. Aaron, any more on how they got these images and what happens next?
We know, according to the sheriff, that they had been working with Google, which owns the Nest security system that Nancy Guthrie had installed. The statement from Director Patel does not specifically say which manufacturer, but that's what the sheriff had told us they were working with to try to recover these images on what the authorities say are the back-end systems. So even if the camera wasn't necessarily recording or the recording apparatus was removed, they were still able to recover the images, probably by working with the manufacturer and likely, Diane, with the help of a warrant. So the FBI didn't specifically say, and I'm sure they're not terribly keen to explain how they recovered these images, but they did, and they are now the most important clue that we have seen in the last 9 days. There have been few, if any, leads, no suspects, according to the authorities. And while the individual depicted in a mask and backpack and gloves is not characterized as a suspect, the authorities now have at least one image to go on.
And I want to bring in retired FBI agent and ABC News contributor Richard Frankel. Richard, how big is this development? How significant is this? And where does the investigation go from here?
Yeah, as Aaron just said, this is the biggest development of the investigation in that they do have pictures now that, while not confirming she was taken, but confirming that there was a masked individual immediately before the time that she went missing. So, as you look at this investigation, it would lead me to believe that this was the person, at least that was involved in some capacity in the abduction of Nancy Guthrie. And that's just, based upon my observation of what we're seeing. Also, it's hard to make out, is this a man? Is this a woman? Anything more about that. But you can see the eyes. You can see a little bit of the mouth. There are also programs out there, AI-generated techniques that are available to the FBI and to other law enforcement, that they may be able to start getting more information about who this person is. They're going to be taking that picture and they're going to be putting it through every single configuration that they have of every database they have to see if there's anything more that they can get from this picture. They're also going to be looking at the clothing. They're going to be looking at everything associated with these pictures to see if there's anything more that can take them to the next lead. But I think this is a great job by the FBI and by law enforcement. They did not just move on from prior leads. They kept working it just like they do on these major investigations, and they were able to come up with this evidence.
And Aaron, they're not calling this person a suspect, but the FBI director does say this person was armed.
And I don't see a specific weapon just looking in the small version of these images, Diane, but that's what the FBI director says. And in looking just at the mask and the gloves and the backpack, and my God, you think how terrified Nancy Guthrie may have been, assuming she confronted this individual in her home at about 2 o'clock in the morning after a game night and dinner with her family at her daughter Annie's house nearby. We know that the FBI has also been scrutinizing other cameras here at the house. We spotted them on the roof, looking at rooftop cameras that were part of Nancy Guthrie's home security system. So perhaps the hope is they'll be able to recover additional images in addition to the ones that appear to be from the doorbell camera, previously inaccessible to authorities for a variety of reasons, they say. But the hope is to try and build out a much larger profile of this individual. Even though they're not calling the person a suspect, it is the best images authorities and the public now have to go on, Diane.
And so many now hoping that they will lead them to Nancy Guthrie. Aaron, Brad, Richard, thank you all. And investigators are asking anyone with any information related to this case to call either one of those two tip lines on your screen. And we will have much more on ABC News Live and abcnews.com. And David will be back with the whole team from World News Tonight with more on this story later this evening. I'm Diane Macedo. Right now, we'll return to your regular programming. Have a great rest of the day.
This has been a special report from ABC News.
Diane, thank you. I'm Kira Phillips. Good afternoon, everyone. Rubber gloves, a full mask, and armed, all captured on the Nest Cam. It's the biggest development so far in the search for Nancy Guthrie. Let's get straight to our chief investigative correspondent, Aaron Katursky, who has been on this case for us since it first broke. Aaron, your thoughts on these images that FBI Director Kash Patel has now put out? What's your sense of what he's saying in particular about this suspect being armed?
Well, we have to take the director's word for it, Kira. I'm only looking on my phone, so tiny squares of images. I don't see a specific weapon, but that's what the FBI director sees in these images, along with the backpack, the gloves, and the mask. And it appears that the individual is trying to tamper with the doorbell camera. And at first, the authorities said, Kira, that these images were inaccessible to law enforcement. They've been working undoubtedly with the manufacturer, which we believe to be Nest, owned by Google, perhaps with the assistance of a warrant signed by a judge to get access to these images. And they are the first significant clue that we have seen in the last 9 days. And Kira, the other thought, simply looking at them, how terrifying for Nancy Guthrie if she confronted this individual at about 2 in the morning, Mountain Time, the first of the month, in her home. This was at about 1:47 a.m., authorities believe, when this individual was disconnecting the doorbell camera, and at 2:12, an indoor camera that was not set up to record nonetheless captured or sensed that there was an intruder in the house. And just a few minutes after that, Nancy Guthrie's pacemaker disconnected from her phone, which was left behind, and it's believed she was abducted.
So, Aaron, so many different pieces of information coming out since this story first broke. So I just want to back up for a minute now that we have these images of this individual there on the doorstep, and it looks like another one of these images showing the suspect maybe trying to disassemble a camera or cut a camera off. Do we know, I guess, if anybody was inside the house in addition to this individual we see on the porch, or do we believe that it was one individual acting alone, or do we even know the answer to that yet?
We don't know the answer, Kira. It's possible that this individual was the only other individual besides Nancy Guthrie who was inside that house on February 1st. Maybe there was somebody waiting in a car. Maybe there were a team of people in the yard. We just don't know. We do know that the FBI agents were spotted on the roof of the house in the last couple of days, looking at cameras. Maybe they're trying similar techniques to try and access additional images that would give them the answer. We know that an indoor camera sensed that there was an individual inside the home, but it was not set up to record an image of that individual. So we're not sure. And officially, the FBI is not characterizing the individual depicted in these new images, Kira. The FBI officially has said there are no suspects and no persons of interest. That may be changing now that they have this significant image that the public can now see of a masked, gloved individual with a backpack at Nancy Guthrie's home here.
And just if I need to be corrected, I'm looking through the Pima County Sheriff's Office and the statement that they put out. I don't see that they're calling him a suspect. I did say suspect. Is he a suspect? Do we know?
We don't know, and neither the FBI nor the Pima County Sheriff's Department characterized the individual in any particular way, other than to say this individual showed up in a mask and gloves and a backpack to tamper with a doorbell camera at Nancy Guthrie's home. So the presumption is that this is a person associated with her disappearance and apparent abduction. The FBI is not saying for sure. I got to tell you, Kira, I don't know that it matters what we call him. It's the first clue we have had in the last 9 days. Law enforcement will take it, and now they can run it through various software tools to try and develop a more specific image that the public might be able to recognize. But certainly they're already saying, do you recognize the eyes? Take a look. Do you recognize the build? Is this an individual that you could possibly tell who it is? And call the FBI if you do.
Yeah, clearly this is not someone delivering Uber Eats at 2 a.m. You're right. It doesn't really matter. I mean, it's pretty powerful just to see the image in the gloves and the full face mask and boots and a backpack and, going for the cameras. Aaron, appreciate you so much. Stay with me if you can. Let's bring in our retired FBI agent, Rich Frankel. Rich, for days, we've been talking about no clues, no leads, no additional information. Does it mean the Sheriff's Department is keeping things, close to the sleeve, or does it look like they completely botched this and don't have anything? Now we're seeing these images. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I think the fact that it took this long to get these images just goes to the fact that it takes that long. Either, as Aaron said, maybe they had to get warrants. Maybe there was some other technical problems or issues that caused them to take this long to get these videos and these pictures. But the fact that they stayed with it and they got the pictures, and it appears that these pictures are of somebody who was probably or possibly connected to the abduction of Nancy Guthrie. But also, you got to look at the rest of the investigation. We did see the FBI agent on the roof. It appears to get another camera. Why didn't they find that camera earlier? I can't comment on that. I don't know. But they were up there. It appears that they did take a camera off within the last couple of days. And maybe we're going to be seeing more pictures. It's going to take a little bit of time. but the FBI has stayed with it. The sheriff's department has stayed with it, and they are doing their best, it appears, to be trying to find Nancy Guthrie.
Got it. All right. Stay close, Rich. Let's take it straight to Trevor Alt now. He's been on this story from the very beginning as well. So, Trevor, I guess folks are trying to figure out how these images have now suddenly appeared when we thought at the very beginning that the cameras were taken, disabled, and that there weren't any images. If we go back to the very first press conference, and correct me if I'm wrong, it sounded like no video had been recorded and that the chance of getting any images was basically slim to none.
Yes, that was our understanding, Kira. So from the very beginning, we learned that there were cameras at this home, which gave everyone some hope that we would get to see what was going on. Then it seemed it was taking some time to get the images. Then they essentially said that the Guthrie family didn't have a subscription with Google Nest, that's who owns these surveillance companies. And so then while they do take some of the footage, it would be deleted very quickly. They were trying to get it recovered. We know the FBI brought in, as part of their task force, experts in data recovery. And it got to the point where it looked like these images were lost. Now, we don't know 100% how they were able to obtain them or recover them. A warrant does seem very likely. As you can imagine, often surveillance companies are not quick to hand over images or footage after they have told you we're deleting it inside your own home after it is taken. But in this instance, I think you could understand why a judge might say, no, this is relevant to be able to pull this kind of footage. Now, as far as the semantics on whether or not the FBI and Pima County Sheriff's Office in their official statements are calling this a suspect, no, they're not using that language. I can tell you a source who is very familiar with this investigation told me ahead of the release, when we were expecting these images, I referred to it as showing a potential suspect, and they said that that was fair language. So at this point, what we all know it to be obvious. This is a person who appears to be on camera tampering with these cameras the night that Nancy Guthrie is believed to have been taken from her home. I think it's obvious to everyone that this is very possibly someone who was directly involved in the case. This is also, of course, we know this is the first major breakthrough. It's also the first piece of concrete evidence that we have to go off of. For the past 9 days or so, the driving force that we've seen in terms of how investigators have been speaking publicly and how the family has been speaking publicly has been in response to unverified ransom notes, a pair of them which were sent out to media organizations. Those have never been confirmed to be real. It's possible that they are, but it's also possible that they are not. We saw, though, the Guthrie family speaking directly to any potential captors, talking about being willing to pay, anything like that. I think, of course, it speaks to their grief. It speaks to their willingness to try to get information, but it also possibly speaks to their desperation in an investigation that, to that point, had turned up basically nothing. And what I was hearing from investigators through this entire thing is they are chasing down hundreds of leads. They're begging the public for information, but they repeatedly were hitting dead end after dead end after dead end. To get this development now with these still images that they can immediately send out around the world is going to substantially bolster their plea to the public to be on the lookout for information. Because now when you say, hey, we're needing information that's going to help Nancy Guthrie, you can show them something tangible to hang on to, as opposed to if you saw something strange somewhere, anywhere in America, or maybe in Mexico, or maybe beyond it. That is a very broad net to cast. This at least can focus the public in a specific direction. The problem, of course, now is we're 9 days after Nancy Guthrie was taken. That is a 9-day head start for the person who took her. If this is the person in these images who did it, they could be anywhere at this point. But of course, this is an immense development in this case. It could be extremely helpful for investigators and the general public in trying to find wherever Nancy Guthrie is.
Great reporting, Trevor. Thank you so much. And I want to bring in Brad Garrett. Brad, as a former FBI agent involved in cases like this, I've got two questions for you. The first one is just your overall thought about these images.
Well, I think they're terrific. We started with not having any and thought we weren't going to get any. I'll tell you, Kara, it's not uncommon to have, I'll use the term surveillance photos of people that aren't very good. And many times they have a hood up. In this case, it looks like this guy's got on some version of a ski mask. But there are unique characteristics about this picture. In other words, as Aaron mentioned, you can see his eyes. There's a possibility around his mouth that there's some facial hair. But what jumped out at me were two things specifically is the backpack that he had on looked, all we can see is the straps, of course, but looked very different. And then it looks like he has two lights attached to the top of the strap of the backpack, which would make sense, of course, if he's going into a dark house. That also may suggest to me that he didn't drive up to that house. There are these dry creek beds behind Nancy's house that lead to other roads, that he may well have walked up one of those trails to get in her house. I'm only saying that is, and my guess is they've done follow-up of this, but to check that out. But those lights on the backpack and the gloves even look somewhat unique to me. So when people go to look at this photograph, you're going to want to point out to them some of the things I just mentioned, because this guy may have worn that backpack around with those lights on. Maybe he hikes a lot. Who knows? But it would be interesting for that to be sort of the clincher of at least figuring out who he is, because my sense is going to be he's the key to this case.
Yeah, that's a great point. When you think of someone and who, maybe more sophisticated thinking about their appearance, a lot of times you see those that have been arrested in images like this in all black, like nothing is recognizable or there aren't any distinctions. And you've already pulled out a number of different things, from possible facial hair and the eyes to the backpack to the jacket to the gloves. Interesting points. So then let me ask you, considering what you just pointed out, what does the FBI do now? For example, are there ways to look at those gloves more closely or differently, or the jacket or the eyes or the mouth or the facial hair? How does the FBI go about zooming in on these certain distinctive aspects of these images, and not only look at it from an FBI perspective, but also, show the images to the Guthries or people that know Nancy very well? Do you distribute it to everyone?
Well, that's the whole key here. The key is wide dissemination. You don't know, obviously, if this guy is from the Tucson area. He could have traveled into the Tucson area. Now, why he would go after Nancy Guthrie, my guess is it's because of someone else. But we'll see. That's just a guess on my part. That if you take, for example, if I'm correct on this at all, that there are two sort of specialized lights mounted on the straps of the backpack, with enough enhancement of those pictures, you might be able to figure out who the manufacturer is. Now, that may or may not help. It would certainly help if he ordered them from Amazon. You might be able to find people that purchased those. If, in fact, they can ID the backpack or those sort of, I think, sort of odd-looking gloves. Those are all potential leads that may, it's a lot of work, but it may lead to, 100 people or 200 people in the last few months that have bought, like, those lights that are on that appear to be lights on the straps of the backpack. So it's that sort of minutia, for lack of better terms, that get you down the road. I mean, we're so used to watching television where it's all run and gun and excitement, but that isn't what solves cases. It's what the stuff you and I are talking about.
The specifics. Well, let's talk more about it with former FBI agent Rich Frankel as well, who you know quite well too, Brad. Rich, what are your thoughts about the images and the specifics? And just add to, okay, here we go. Is there any sound to the video? Okay, so Rich and Brad and Trevor and Aaron, we have now cleared the video. We're rolling the video now. Rich, go ahead and look at the video and tell me, and we'll try and loop it. Tell me what you think of the video, the backpack, what this potential suspect is doing. All your thoughts, please.
Yeah, as I'm looking at it on the screen with you, he has it coming up. You're coming up to the camera. You're trying to either smash the camera or do something to it, and then he backs away. He's bending over. It appears he's doing something, looking at the ground or looking in that area, either for something that he may have dropped or just trying to identify something. But what's important, and I think Brad also talked about this, is you can get a lot of information now, not only off of the gloves and the front of the backpack, but also his height, his weight, that he may have had the mustache, the color of his eyes, potentially. Even though it is black and white, they may be able to go with the hue of his eyes. And now maybe even zoom in on what he was doing back there near the the entryway where he bends over. Was there anything else on the ground that he left there? I think there's a lot in this video that law enforcement probably already has and will continue to unpack and utilize to identify who this person may be.
We are just getting word that Savannah Guthrie is put out some type of statement. I'll have that in just a second. Clearly, she sees the news breaking. She sees the video. She sees these images now. So once I have that, I will read that. But so, all right. So, Brad, now you're seeing the video for the first time as well. Your thoughts. Add to what Rich was seeing here.
Still alive. Bring her home.
Okay. So here's what I think. I think that this guy is alone. I think he seems to be sort of disorganized about what he's doing, about how he's going to do this and where he's going to do it. And there's this walking back and forth. And it's very odd to me on some levels. It's like he's trying to decide how he's going to do this, but also apparently has a comfort level as to what he's doing. It looks like he's like improvising at this point. It's not going to probably help you ID him, but it's certainly going to help you his movements, his actions, his to a certain extent his gait. He seems to walk a little stooped over. Again, those are all things that potentially could be helpful in identifying him. But I think behaviorally it gives me something to work on that, it doesn't strike me that this was a highly sophisticated operation.
So it looks like Savannah Guthrie, after seeing these images, very simple. She just put out one line saying, "We believe she is still alive. Bring her home." Anyone with information, please contact 1-800-CALL FBI. She's got the numbers, of course, on there, Pima County Sheriff's Department and also the FBI. But that one line, "We believe she is still alive. Bring her home." I'm curious, Brad, that she puts this out. Looks like just shortly after we were able to see the video and the images. What are your thoughts that she is now saying, "We believe she is still alive"?
Well, I think you want to still portray a positive image, particularly if you're the family of this case. And to be honest, Garrett, we don't know whether she's dead or alive. Everyone has huge concerns, her age, her physical health, her lack of medications, presumably, and now that we're beyond a week, it's sadly reasonable that she's not alive. Obviously, I hope she is. But I think it's fine for the family to keep talking in a positive vein. We'll see. I'm going to guess that they'll get this guy identified in a reasonable short period of time.
Okay. Well, that is definitely good news. Trevor, let me take it back to you. As you look at these images and video that was just released, I was noticing, too, that in Kash Patel, the FBI director, in one of his tweets, he said, "We've been working closely with our private sector partners to continue to recover any images or video footage from Nancy Guthrie's home that may have been lost." It's interesting because at the beginning, we all thought, according to the initial press conference on behalf of the sheriff, that this possibility it just wasn't going to happen. We weren't going to see any images or any video, that it was a lost opportunity, that Nancy Guthrie didn't have a subscription service that recorded video. Now, clearly, I think we are learning that I guess there are scenarios where, whether you have a subscription or not, and whether you think that video is not available, that there are ways to get it if you have a Nest Cam.
Definitely, and it does raise some questions for people who have home surveillance cameras that I think are probably a little bit larger than this case here specifically. But definitely with this case, this is an overwhelming development, and something where as early as late last week, it looked like we were never going to see anything that was captured by these cameras. And I do think it is a really big deal that they were able to recover more than just the still images, because when you have a person here who is wearing a mask, it makes it especially difficult to recognize them. But when you talk about movements, how a person's posture is and how they move through the world, that specifically could remind any person who knows this person of who they actually are. That could be key in terms of reaching out to the public to try to get this person ID'd. As I'm watching the footage specifically, I mean, there are a number of things that jump out that have been pointed out here already. I agree with the fact that it does appear to be someone who is discovering, okay, there are cameras, tries to make an effort to cover his own face, doesn't do a great job of doing it, which is why we have these still images. What I also noticed that I find particularly chilling, Kira, is this is a person showing up at around 1:45 a.m. or so to an 84-year-old's home who's about to be abducted. And according to the timeline we've been given, her pacemaker didn't disconnect from her phone until about a half hour later. That is a long time, a half hour, when you're talking about something like this. And when I see this video, I see a person who, to me, does not look like he's in a hurry. And I find that to be quite chilling. A person who comes up to the door, moving very slowly. Now, he likely was trying not to draw attention to himself, but the fact that he went through all of this action of actively covering up this video without doing it in a way that it appears like he was really trying to act quickly, I do think is very alarming. Now, this story, of course, has been incredibly alarming from the get-go. The fact that this video now, I mean, already on social media, Kira, these images are everywhere. The video is going to be everywhere as well. And now with Savannah Guthrie, of course, continuing to do that outreach, I think that you are going to have billions of people who see this footage. And we have suddenly, after 9 days of extremely difficult investigating, where repeatedly, every time we would check in with investigators, it was no suspects, no persons of interest. We're following up on hundreds of tips, but everything that I would hear behind the scenes was just nothing comes up. Now, what I was told specifically from somebody in the FBI going back almost a week now was we had no real direction. We were casting a wide net with the public. So far, nothing has turned up, but you never know what could be the one breadcrumb that leads to finding Nancy Guthrie. Now, this is a very, very big breadcrumb. This is something that we thought it maybe wasn't possible. And even the sheriff last week was saying he went from, we're trying to get the video, we hope we get it quickly, to, I don't know that we're ever going to get it. The fact that they are able to recover it, you cannot overstate just how critical this could be for solving this case that has been so puzzling now for a week and a half.
All right, so Brad, your thoughts, because Brad, you mentioned the backpack in particular, and now we can see the whole backpack when he turns around and when he moves. Now that we're looking at the different versions of the video, what are you seeing? What are you noticing? Your thoughts?
So I agree that the backpack, in addition to the stuff I mentioned a few minutes ago, could be a potential identification of the backpack. You might be able to run backwards the purchases of that, and you may not. It just depends. In fact, in all the items I mentioned, it may be really difficult, but I assume they will try. But as you watch him move around, again, these are gross generalizations, but the backpack, he seems to, it's not a huge backpack. It looks like something he's really comfortable in wearing, which my guess is he wears it all the time. And I say that if people look that this image, and they look at the ski mask, but maybe look at the eyes, look at maybe facial hair, and the backpack and the way he's walking, and somebody may say, well, that guy lives down the street from me. And that's exactly what police are looking for. And so the common things that people, even people that would commit this type of horrendous crime, are still going to do things in a routine way of how they do them. And I think all of that, plays into the favor, in addition to the type of crime it is. I mean, people from all walks of life probably would come forward to give up this guy.
I'm just looking at the video more up close now regarding the backpack. Aaron Katursky, I want to bring you back in here as we're all seeing this video for the very first time. What do you make? And I know you're on a cell phone as well, so you can't see it really in a large way. But from what you're noticing and seeing, what are your thoughts? And is anybody there on the ground making any comments about what has just been released?
It's a little creepy to think, Kira, that the images appear to have been taken inside the archway that you might be able to see through the cactus over my right shoulder. That's the entryway into the house where this individual, according to the FBI, tried to tamper with a doorbell camera and then seemingly entered the home and abducted Nancy Guthrie, and just how terrifying that must have been for her to confront this individual with what appears to be a weapon in his waistband or right in his midsection, a mask, gloves, the backpack, and that, to me, I think is what the most striking thing is. Now, the public is meant to look at all of this. You saw the post. Savannah Guthrie put all these images on her own Instagram account with the firm belief that her mother is still out there alive. There's been no proof of that, but she is begging the public to take a look at the images and then call the authorities with any tip about who it might be.
All right, Aaron, such great reporting there for us. And you're right, it's chilling that you are right there in front of her front porch where we are seeing now for the first time this Nest Cam video of a potential suspect in the kidnapping of Nancy Guthrie. Rich Frankel, what do you make of the gun sort of tucked into the front of his pants? I mean, Brad was saying that this guy he doesn't really look like a pro. He was, kind of going back and forth, taking his time, like maybe he was not sure of what he was going to do or how he was going to go forward with all this. What are your thoughts about potential evidence, how he's moving, how slow he's moving?
Yeah, Kira, you're 100% right. That he doesn't appear to know what he was doing when he came up to the door. He comes up, he's playing with the camera or, trying to disable it. He goes back and maybe picks up cactus, some type of plant, and then comes back and is rubbing that on the camera lens, maybe to crack it or to do something to the lens itself of the device. The other thing is, the way the gun is holstered in front of him, it seems to be, somehow connected to his waist. It's really hard to see, but it does move around quite a bit when he's leaning forward and going back. It's just a very odd place to have your weapon. Yes, I guess he can get to it because it's below his jacket line, so it's easier to grab. But it's not a place where a person would normally keep their weapon. They would either keep it on their hip or it would actually be on a cross, on a holster across your chest so that you could get to it outside your jacket. That location, it just appears that it was added on almost.
Yeah. So, Rich, we were just talking about the fact, once again, and it's been a part of our conversation, and I was talking with Trevor about it, that initially we were told there would be no video from these cameras, that the cameras were either they were missing, she didn't have a subscription service that was recording. But now, all of a sudden, not only do we have images, we have video. So looking back at what Kash Patel, the FBI director, put out, he said, we've been working closely with our private sector partners to continue to recover any images or video footage. So, you know, when we're initially told there's no video, there's no images, you know, how do you think we got to this point where now all of a sudden we have video?
Well, at that time, they probably did not have anything readily accessible off of the camera. And so while they probably were keeping the fact that they were still going hard on it to get the video, they may not have had it at that time. So I wouldn't say that, you know, they were misrepresenting themselves, but they were keeping it very close to the chest on what they were doing. You know, because they also did not probably want the hostage takers, or, you know, whoever abducted Nancy Guthrie, to know that they were still going for this video. And then also they probably had legal issues that they had to get past. You know, they did probably have to get warrants. They had to deal with Nest and their parent company to see that they would actually help them in this endeavor. And then also some of the images, you know, are run over. We know that, you know, over a certain period of time, you'll run over stuff on your hard drive because you're trying to save your hard drive and not just fill it up with video that you don't need. So in this case, luckily, either the video was not run over, was not re-videoed, however that's done, and they were able to get the actual what looks to me like great pictures of the potential hostage taker. Even though we don't see his face, we see everything about him, you know, from his height, from the fact that he may have facial hair, you know, to the hue of his color of his eyes, and possibly we can get weight and height off of this too. So I think the fact that we do have the video, and that even though it did take us a while to get it, great job by law enforcement. Now I'm waiting to see, are they able to get further video from that camera that they found above the residence over the weekend? If they're able to get more video, hey, maybe we'll get a car, maybe we'll get a picture of Nancy leaving the residence. There could be a lot more information coming to us in the next day or two.
Rich, as you look at this video, does this look like a pro to you?
No, to be quite frank, it doesn't. It looks like somebody who came up to the door, didn't really know how they were going to handle the video or the camera, tried to disable it in some manner, and then went back and got cactus or some type of plant, and then tried to rub the lens. Yeah, this is not somebody who appears to have a well thought out plan in place. Probably did have some plan, but is not somebody who really knew what the plan going forward would be once they saw the camera.
So could that be an advantage to law enforcement if this guy isn't a pro, and just watching the way he's operating, are the chances pretty good that he was sloppy elsewhere? So if you got images from the roof or another camera from somewhere, this could be someone that could leave more than what Trevor said, just one breadcrumb.
Yeah, listen, he did a pretty good job of getting away. He did in some manner, he was able to keep off of the electronic surveillance systems that were out there. But here you do see a mistake that he made. And that's what law enforcement is hoping for, that there'll be another mistake, again, maybe from the other camera that he didn't know about, to, you know, where he then parked or was there a car that came up and drove away with him? If that's the case, then maybe there is a second person that's out there. All of these potentials will assist law enforcement in moving forward, and then hopefully not just being breadcrumbs, but being dominoes. As one falls, it hits the next one, and law enforcement's able to capitalize on that and now move forward and identify where Nancy is and hopefully get her back safe and sound.
Brad, question to you about the video. Now that the video is out and all of us are talking about it and describing it and trying to figure out who this person is and talking about, what he did or didn't do well in this operation, is he a pro or not? How could this impact this individual? So let's just say he's sitting back wherever he is. He has Nancy Guthrie with him, and he's seeing that video is now out there. Could that be a good thing or a bad thing? Could he start to get nervous? Oh, my gosh, I didn't think they would have this. Now they're going to figure out who I am. I've got to act quickly and do something else. How could this impact what this potential suspect is thinking and could do next?
So that cuts two ways. Typically, you're correct that somebody, I'm going to guess at his lack of sophistication level, will panic with his video out. So will he destroy things, like get rid of the backpack? If it has lights on it, get rid of anything that he had on that night, the ski mask, etc. And so there's that side of it. But the other side of it that I think weighs better is the public are going to be able to identify him. Now, I say that with some limitations, because if this guy is a loner that lives in a rural part of Arizona or someplace else, there may not be a lot of people that know him. And so however he got from Nancy's front door back to his house, tells you a little bit about him as far as his ability to pull that off.
Got it. And Trevor, let's just step back for a minute and let's bring us up to date on the ransom notes and also now all the evidence so far, because we do have to remember that there was DNA found on the front porch there. There were blood samples that did match Nancy Guthrie. So let's just do a recap here.
Yeah, so what we knew from the sheriff is that he had said immediately upon investigators getting to the scene, there was something clear that this looked like Nancy Guthrie did not simply wander off. And one thing that pointed them in that direction is that the only conclusive DNA finding we have been told about from investigators so far is that there was blood found on the scene right there on the front porch that this person is standing on in this video. It is the exact same location. And as of now, that is about the only firm evidence that investigators have released, although they did say that there were signs inside the home that this was not your typical missing persons case that pointed them immediately to believe that Nancy Guthrie had been abducted. Up until this point today, a main area of focus, both in how investigators were approaching it, or at least what they were addressing publicly, and also how the general public were talking about this case, were centered around ransom notes that had not and still have not been verified in regards to this case. The first notes sent a day or so after Nancy Guthrie was reported missing, and then another one that was sent over the weekend, according to law enforcement sources, to media organizations. And one of the few things that publicly was announced about these ransom notes, while investigators said they were taking it seriously, they didn't know if it was real or not, the initial ransom note had some deadlines where they were requesting to be paid in order to return Nancy Guthrie. And the final deadline after which they said that they would kill Nancy Guthrie was yesterday afternoon. Now, I cannot stress enough, we don't know that this is real. I was told from investigative sources at one point that at best, agents were 50-50 on whether or not it was real. But in the absence of evidence, this was the one thing that maybe pointed to where Nancy Guthrie could be. And so we saw video after video of the Guthrie family in anguish, at times speaking directly to potential captors of Nancy Guthrie, saying, First, that they need more evidence that she was alive, that she had been captured, and then saying that they would pay in order to get information that would lead them to finding Nancy Guthrie. Now, investigators, of course, are going to be focusing on these videos. It does not mean that the ransom notes are dismissed. It still doesn't mean that they're real, but they are still a portion of this investigation. But this, of course, sends it into a brand new direction. Is it possible that the person that we're seeing on the camera could be the same person who wrote these ransom notes? Yes. Is it possible they are not related at all? Yes, it is. What this, though, is a single bullseye that you can point the public toward when you are asking for information. We are looking for this person here. Can you help us find him? It is by far the closest that we have felt in potentially finding Nancy Guthrie.
Trevor Holt, Brad Garrett, Rich Frankel, Aaron Katursky, appreciate all of you so much. And if you're just tuning in, we are going to stay on this breaking news coverage. As you can see, a bit of a break in the case, video and images from that Nest cam showing a potential suspect now in the kidnapping of Nancy Guthrie. We have more for you. Just a quick break. We'll be right back.
Devastating mystery coming out of Columbus, Ohio.
This mystery of what happened to a dentist and his stay-at-home wife.
There's a double murder suspect on the loose.
A dentist and his wife found shot to death inside their home. The urgent search for answers.
There's no gun found at the house. They were hunting for an assailant.
This case got a lot of clicks on social media. People want to try to make sense of it.
Bombshell accusations.
New video tonight of a person of interest.
They're divorced 8 years ago. It doesn't make any sense.
We were totally blindsided. Spencer and Monique were some of the kindest and just most inviting people.
Their smiles were infectious.
Everything just seemed totally normal.
And then all of a sudden, all of that comes crashing down in the worst way that it could. Things like that just don't happen.
And the details are puzzling.
The perfect couple inside the Ohio murders. Now streaming on Disney Plus and Hulu.
This is a global operation. Get your surveillance team in place.
LAPD has agreed to help the FBI track down terrorist targets.
There's nothing like a day in the job to remind you how quickly life can change.
Get out of there.
We'll stay strong. Whenever, wherever news breaks, it's so important to always remember that lives are changed.
Here in London, in Buffalo, Uvalde, Texas,
Edinburgh, Scotland,
from Poland once again tonight. Thank you so much for streaming with us. Ukrainian refugees here in Warsaw.
Do you think you'll ever be able to go back home? We're heading to a small community outside of Mexico City.
Splintered houses and splintered lives, and the magnitude of the devastation. You're streaming ABC News Live. Reporting from Rolling Fork, Mississippi, Santa Fe, New Mexico, Raleigh, North Carolina,
the U.S. Capitol,
Mayfield, Kentucky,
Minneapolis,
Mexico, Tongass National Forest, Alaska.
Getting you behind the stories as they happen, giving you a front row seat to our world as it plays out in real time, live.
ABC News Live Prime. We'll take you there.
Stream ABC News Live weeknights, America's most honored streaming news program, only on ABC News Live. Streaming free right now wherever you stream your news.
That's a day that will be ingrained in my head forever. It was gut-wrenching.
It's horrific.
People were shocked. They were devastated.
Friday night.
Her love for life was unmatched.
He looks like Captain America. He's a hero.
How could the wife of a fireman end up in a car fire?
The all-new 2020 true crime mystery.
There's a fire, like a car went off the road, footprints in the snow.
Friday at 9/8 Central on ABC and stream on Disney Plus and Hulu.
Dirty show. Well, it's deadline day for the Trump administration to explain why it took pallets of ballots in Georgia. A federal judge giving the government till the end of the day to unseal the affidavit filed in support of that search warrant that allowed the FBI to raid the Fulton County Election Center last month. Trump's FBI agents seizing 700 boxes containing ballots and other materials associated with the 2020 election. You'll remember there were multiple recounts in the aftermath of that election.